everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Vincent.
And today, we're going to be talking about costumes. Happy Halloween to everybody.
Hello, Happy Ween!
Vince and I decided we wanted to do something special for Halloween, and in lieu of coming up with anything special, we're going to do a GNN about... We're going to do a GNN about costumes and about adults growing up and putting on costumes and when we think it's appropriate to do that sort of thing. But I think we'll also probably just talk about Halloween costumes in general and again costuming, and maybe even get into a little bit the differences between costuming and cosplaying, because I think there's some differences there, and I think that could be kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We'll be talking for the next half an hour or so probably, and then we'll go into rants right after that. So Vince, you came up with this topic, so why don't you start us off someplace?
Well. I think that it's always appropriate when there's an occasion that calls for it, like, say, Halloween. So you're going to a costume party, you're going to wear a costume. You're going trick-or-treating with your kid. A lot of parents don't dress up, but nobody's going to look at the parent weird if they do dress up, especially if they wear a costume that is matching their kids, which could be cute.
Yeah.
I just saw on the internet the other day, some little girl wanted to dress as Alice, so her dad, his friend, dressed as Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
And
I think it makes it more fun for the kid.
Yeah, and the dog was Toto, so it's great when you can get these family things together. And, you know, they don't even have to match. I mean, nobody's going to look at you weird if you're a zombie and your kid's Jason. Because his kid's Jason.
My kid is always Jason. Oh, we should totally do that.
He does a good Jason impression. More not Voorhees so much. But
Sarah and I have had long conversations about what we might call an eventual second kid, and for a while, if we had a boy, we were talking about Freddy just so that we would have Freddy and Jason.
I think that's great.
Which is ridiculous. But anyway, yeah. So in that case, when do you think it's inappropriate, and have you seen inappropriate costuming?
Well, I mean, and sometimes this kind of makes you.
I'm gonna ask you that because you came up with this.
Inappropriate cosplaying. I would say normal, everyday life. It's weird to wear a costume. It's not weird to wear a uniform because, of course, that's usually mandated by an occupation. But
or private school.
But wearing a costume, true, or Boy Scouts or something.
Yeah.
But if
Star
you're
Trek
wearing a Star Trek, it's mandatory. You come to Star Trek Club, not wearing a costume. Shoot.
It's not mandatory, and there's no shooting in Star Trek Club. It's
there's more stunning, is what
it's supposed to be a utopian future, Vince. There's not really a lot of shooting that goes on, at least amongst the people. That would be a mutiny.
So why do they need phasers anyway?
Well, because not everybody agrees with their philosophies, but everybody in Star Trek Club tends to want to be there and don't tend to shoot each other. Anyway.
Say that to Ian and I when we get out our brass knuckles.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Actually, Ian's a fine guy. I'm just messing around. So, I think it's inappropriate to wear a costume on an everyday type of day. And I'm not saying that if
what do you consider a costume?
I would say wearing a Starfleet uniform would be a costume. So, if you wore the appropriate pants, the appropriate shirt with the communicator badge, or pin, or whatever.
You don't think you should go to the grocery store doing that?
I think it's weird. I think it's kind of strange. And, I mean, if I saw a person go to the grocery store like that, I wouldn't think anything of it. I'd be like, well, there's probably a costume party.
They might be on their way to something, yeah.
Yeah, they probably have an event that they're going to, and it's Star Trek related. I'm not going to judge. But if I show up to, say, a Piggly Wiggly, I'm not sure those even exist anymore.
Yeah, we had them in Arkansas, but yeah, I don't know.
If I show up to, say, Target, and then I see a cashier wearing a Starfleet uniform, I'm going to say, that's a poor choice, my friend. What are you doing?
Well, they should be fired already, probably. I mean...
Yeah, they probably can't
can't do that. But I see what you're saying. Okay, so my question then is, why? What is it that is strange about it to you?
Because I feel like there is a certain image that professionally people need to project. And I think that when you're at your job, like say you're a lawyer, you should probably wear a suit. If you show up in jeans and a t-shirt, it sends the wrong image. If you show up in a Starfleet uniform, it sends the wrong image. If you showed up dressed as a zombie, it gives the wrong image.
For something formal, sure, but when we're just talking about just being out in public wearing whatever you want to, I mean, like, first of all, obviously people have the right to do anything they want to.
You know, that's interesting, because at that point, you almost have to make a distinction.
What do you find strange about it, right? Like, is it that you feel like if they, just for them personally, like, it doesn't offend you, it's not a problem for you, but you know that there might be a stigma, you know, that it would be difficult for that person to socialize with any given people are going to look at that person and immediately make assumptions about them.
Yeah. Which, for a guy like me, if I see them out in public, I'll assume they're going somewhere. But, like the other day, I saw these people walking around the big shopping center out there in KCK. For those of you who don't know what that is, Kansas City, Kansas. And people over there in England are like, KCK?
Yeah.
But, so I saw these guys dressed because they had obviously just come from Renfest. And I still thought that was weird. I'm like, they had to have just come from the Renaissance Festival, which is just a few miles down the road from that shopping center. And I still thought it was weird. Like, you guys are dressed up as elves, and you're going into Books A Million. That's weird. So,
where I want to come down on this is, I feel like the lines between costuming and regular everyday what you wear have blurred so much that I don't always know when a person is wearing a costume. And there are things that I would sometimes like to wear in regular everyday life that I don't consider a costume, but a person might look at me and think that it is. We dress down so much in our everyday society. We're not a dress-up kind of society, that if I were to take a page out of the book of the 40s or something and stroll down my block wearing a top hat and a button-up shirt, I mean, I wouldn't wear tails, but like I probably wouldn't wear a top hat either, but I'm just saying that, like, you know, if I were to do this, if I were to wear a top hat, sans monocle, a top hat, a button-up shirt, a coat, and a cane, that looks like a costume now.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line between formal and goofy? And isn't it sad a little bit that is the case? Like when I was in high school, I knew a couple of guys. Actually, I'm sorry, this is between high school and college, and the one I'm going to mention from college will be somebody that I know you saw on campus. Yeah. But in high school, I knew a guy who looked like he was a businessman right out of the 1920s, and he went to every class this way. And people looked at him kind of strange.
Oh yeah.
But he was but he was really polite to everyone, and you could tell that. So he had the hat, and he had a briefcase, and he took all of his papers and books and things to class in a briefcase. He must have had to go to his locker constantly. I don't know how you could fit all that in a briefcase. But,
okay, you're talking about high school.
I'm talking about high school.
I did see a guy like that at college.
I'm going to tell you about somebody else that you'll remember from college. But anyway, so like this guy, people looked at him a little weird. But at the same time, you know, they say the clothes make the man, and there's some truth to that. That this guy dressing the way he wanted to, embodying that, he had a certain kind of pizzazz to him. He had a certain walk. I think it made him comfortable, but was it at the expense of making other people uncomfortable? That's the question. Now, with in his case, I don't think it was intrusive or anything. I don't think it was too distracting for people. But I think some things could be for other people. But then in high school you had the especially in the late '90s, early 2000s, when we were going to school, you had the goth chicks, and you had the people with the spiky hair and the different colors and things like that. What do you call a costume? What's not a costume? And the thing I was going to mention from college was, and that's why I say I feel like it's somewhat of a nonconformity thing, right? It's like well, but if it's not a costume for you, then, or for the person doing it, it seems kind of unfair to say that's weird. You shouldn't do that. I don't know if it's fair for me to judge what's normal and what's not when it comes to that sort of thing. But the guy I was going to mention in college, you remember the guy that was right out of the 70s? You remember the guy with the big long sideburns, and he had I forget exactly how he dressed, but he had this dress, this kind of dress that looked like he was in like a He was in like a '70s band, like, and he had this really thick beard,
like Greaser or like hippie.
Hippie, yeah. It was a little.
Are you talking about White Owl?
No, not he wasn't an old guy. It was a student.
Oh.
We saw him all the time. You might not remember him, but anyway.
I'm not sure. I don't remember. Unfortunately, I don't.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, I thought you talked to the guy a few times, but you might just not remember who I'm talking about. Anyway, but I thought you had more interaction with him than I did. But anyway, everybody thought that guy was really cool, but he was right out of a different time. You could you kind of tell, and he had that attitude. So anyway, what do you think about that?
You have a terrific point, because there's a movie that, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's a good movie called SLC Punk. And at some point, it stars Matthew Lillard, the guy that played Shaggy in Scooby-Doo, the live-action movie.
Yeah.
He was the main character in this movie, and one of the big points, sorry to spoil it for anyone, but one of the big points about this movie is they get towards the end, and he's dressed like a punk throughout this whole movie. And, of course, you can go to a Halloween store and buy punk costumes.
Sure.
And fake mohawks and everything. But there are people who dress like that in their everyday life. So when you look at someone like that,
that's their standard dress.
Yeah, that's the way they
world
like
they
to dress.
embody. Yeah.
So they show this guy dressing like this punk throughout this whole movie, and then they get to the end, and she said, "Well, punk is a lifestyle and a type of music. You're just wearing a uniform." And I thought that was super interesting, because at some point, choosing to dress in a particular way is almost like you're saying, I'm going to put on the uniform, or I'm going to put on the costume of the character that I wish that I could fully embody.
Yeah, and I think for some people they can do that and transform into that. Mm-hmm. And I think some people, it's a denial thing.
And, I feel like people are attracted to certain lifestyles, and they will adopt certain styles, not because they really think they look good in it, or because they really think it's beautiful, but rather they want to take that life and thrust it upon themselves.
That's what they wish they were.
Yeah. So, and of course, as you said a little bit ago, the clothes make the man. I'll tell you what, if I'm wearing a slim fit button-down shirt with a nice-looking tie rolled up with slacks and nice shoes...
Gives you a little confidence.
Gives me a little confidence. Now, if I'm, fully dressed up, I feel a little stuffy, but I'm more of a casual type of guy. What can I say?
Yeah, and I'm not, man. The more I get dressed up, the more confident I am. Like, you just keep piling it on for me,
Yeah, I feel like my ideal dress, if I wouldn't be looked as
I love cufflinks. Anyway.
I hope you like your present.
I did.
But I got him Spawn cufflinks, for those of you who are like, what present is he talking about? Yeah, that was great. He was one of the groomsmen, so
we expect everyone to keep up with the exact continuity of Geekvolution.
Yeah. You have to know every part of it.
You should have known that. What's wrong with you?
So I'll say this. I want to go back to an earlier point real quick. A person... Like, say somebody's dressed as an elf going out somewhere. There are people who like to dress like that in their regular life. And I can't really judge that person any more harshly. Especially if they take off the fake ears and just wear Renaissance garb. I can't judge that person any more harshly than I can judge somebody who's dressed as a hippie, because that's also locked in time. That is something that is straight out of the 60s. So if you're Rastafarian hippie style, because now apparently if you're a hippie you also have to dress Rastafarian. I don't know where that started, but now it's one and the same. What? So maybe it's reggae influence. Who knows?
I'm just impressed you came up with Rastafarian.
So, which granted, there was a guy, and I mentioned him a little bit ago, White Owl, who did dress that way. Terrifically nice guy. Always hung out on the KU campus, and I talked with him several times. He was very nice, and I even ate a persimmon that he picked up off the ground and said, "Here, try this." I said, "Sure, why not? It's a persimmon." It was underneath that persimmon tree in front of Strong Hall.
Oh, okay.
So, did you know we had one of those on campus?
I never put two and two together and realized that's what came out of that tree, no.
Yeah, everywhere. Just littering the ground, persimmon. And it's like orange jelly. It's pretty good.
Oh.
But, where?
This is going nowhere fast.
Radically off topic. Yeah. But I can't judge somebody harshly just for wearing something that, you could judge somebody for dressing like a mythical thing. If somebody wears a unicorn costume everywhere they go, that's weird.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to be judgmental, and I don't want to say everybody has to conform to social norms, but even I think that would be a little strange.
That's a little strange. If you go everywhere dressed as a zombie, that's weird.
This is a topic I have a really tough time coming down on, because I think that, like with every, this is another depends question, and like a lot of these, it's a case by case basis thing. I think this somewhat has to do with, for me, with the reasons behind it, with a person's motivation, because for me, just looking at a person, I don't give a crap what you wear. You know what I mean?
Fair.
If that's your bag, if you like doing the goth thing and you're more comfortable with that, and you are the best you can be when you look like that, that makes perfect sense to me. But I don't like the idea of anybody doing anything because they are super insecure with who they are, and so they have to try to be something different. That is a thing I have a tough time with. So it's a case by case thing. It's a social thing. It's why are you doing it? You know what I mean? And I also am not completely against emulation. I think that can sometimes be healthy behavior. I think it can be really unhealthy behavior. But I think that sometimes you get, especially for younger people. I think once you hit a certain age, it'd be really good if you'd already somewhat found yourself. But I feel like when you're in high school and you're in junior high and you're emulating things, you're trying different things out. I think that can be healthy. I really do. I think you try this look, you try this look. You don't know who you are yet. You're still finding yourself. You're still trying to figure yourself out. Your body's going through changes. You have all of these things that happen to you when you're a kid. But at some point you have to start making decisions. At some point you have to decide what kind of person you're going to be, who you're going to be, what you're about, and where you're going. And I don't mean that everybody has to be about one thing. I just mean that there comes to a point where you need direction, you need goals, you need reasons for being, and I think that if you have found all of that, and the garb that I would at first glance say that's a little strange is a huge part of who you are, or if that is reflecting the kind of person you are. I think that's the distinction, right? It's a reflection of you, not your reflection of it.
Yeah, and that's what it should be. The way you dress should be showing something about you, not you trying to conform to whatever somebody is. I mean,
that's what I think. Yeah.
If you want to dress as a punk, I mean, but the difficulty is finding the dividing line between what you actually want and what you think you want, because sometimes those things can get muddled. People are like, well, all of my friends are punks, I'm going to dress like a punk. All of my friends are into hip-hop, I'm going to dress like a rapper.
Yeah, but then that's just like any other choices you might make, where you're letting a group of people that you socialize with or that you want to be like make choices for you, and you're not looking at yourself objectively and figuring out what do you like, what do you just inherently, based on who you are and the experiences you've had, like, and then make choices based on that.
And I mean, there's some people that they like the message behind some particular piece of entertainment.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I mean, I just keep going back to this punk thing. Maybe it's on my mind, but so people like this particular piece of entertainment, so they listen to reggae a lot, and then suddenly they grow dreadlocks. Why? Well, because they just try real hard and shoots out. But, so they grow dreadlocks. Why? Because that's the type of music they listen to. I don't know, man.
If you listen to enough Bob Marley, I think it just happens to you.
It just happens. That's what happened to Rob Zombie, and then he put paint in it or something.
Yeah.
But way off. But
is it possible to listen to a Bob Marley song and not do this? Like, is it because I don't think I am capable of listening to Bob Marley and not just start doing that.
I do that too. My wife hates Bob Marley.
Oh, well, I don't. I like Bob Marley.
Does your wife not like reggae?
Sarah's not really into reggae either.
That's funny. Yeah. We specifically went out there to find women that did not like reggae.
Is that the place where our wives most converge?
We met our wives at the reggae hate rally that was going on.
Vince and I are thinking about having just a giant reggae party and not inviting our wives. That's...
But I love her.
I like my wife too, but she doesn't. Well, what we'll do is we'll do all kinds of things that our wives don't like. So like we'll listen to reggae, we'll eat pie.
Actually, my wife loves pie. I'm more of a cake guy.
But we'll try to find the kinds that she doesn't like, and then
good luck.
And then we'll be like, we're jamming. Anyway,
Three little birds.
So this was originally supposed to be a conversation about costumes, and I think it turned into a conversation about wardrobe.
It really did.
But that's cool. I think that's really interesting. I challenged the thing you started with a little bit because
That's fine. I wasn't convinced of anything I said.
Oh, that's totally cool. But I felt the need to challenge you because I don't feel like me on the outside, not knowing what's in a person's heart, can look at them and say that's weird.
Yeah.
Just on the surface of it.
Well, I feel, and I realize this is judgmental, but if I see a person wearing like fake pointy ears, I look at that and I judge it a little bit. If I see a person dressed a little Renaissance style, that's different.
Yeah.
Like, I have a friend that always wears a peasant shirt with that, like, leather strap on it, and it's really good looking on him. He looks comfortable, he enjoys it, and he looks a little Renaissance style.
If you were really, really into Star Trek, and you were the kind of person that, like, one of the reasons you like Star Trek so much was because you liked the logical philosophy of Vulcans, and you wanted to embody that, I don't think you would have to put on the pointy ears to feel that way. I don't think you would have to put on the pointy ears to subscribe to and live by.
Terrific point.
That by that kind of code. What I'm saying is, I don't think there's anything wrong with I really like this, so I'm going to somewhat live my life by these ideas.
Yeah. You know,
I think culture is somewhat for fiction, and culture is somewhat for those things.
I feel like once you've gotten to the point that you are just sucking down some information and letting it dictate what your life is, then you are shutting yourself off to other avenues that could potentially be good for you or help you define yourself in a way that you would also deem appropriate.
That's a great point too. Yeah,
because there's a lot of people.
You close yourself off, or you say, "Okay, it's too simple. I found the perfect thing, and that's what I'm going to live my life by." But you have to be open-minded enough to allow other good things to influence you. Yeah.
Like, I only like Star
right.
Wars. I'm never going to like anything other than Star Wars, so I start wearing the Jedi suit every day. Okay, I'm fine. Wear the Jedi suit. People are going to look at you and go, "Hey, that guy's a Jedi."
I'm going to have a tough time buying...
Or dressed like a Jedi.
I'm going to have a tough time buying that a person that always dresses that way. Maybe this is unfair. I don't know. But I'm just saying, for me, with the life experiences I've had so far, it's hard for me to imagine that I would meet a person who always insists on dressing that way and lives like the religion of Star Wars or something.
Yeah.
That I would have a tough time seeing that person and buying, unless they could prove it to me somehow, that there's not some kind of weird social insecurity there.
Yeah.
I think I would have a time, because what it seems to me, and I don't know if I can articulate this, is that folks that do that, it tends to be I have to stand out. I have to force my eccentricities on people to say I can do anything, you can't stop me, and it's okay. And it's like, why do you have to prove that to people?
Yeah. I mean, be yourself.
How important? Yeah, be
Granted,
be yourself.
The counter argument is that aren't they being themselves?
Well, but maybe they are. Yeah.
Maybe they are.
And if they are, then that's true. Yeah, then that. But like I said, is that, again?
It's hard
is
to
the
convince
Jedi
me.
robe a reflection of their personality, or is the personality they're projecting reflecting the thing they chose to put on?
There was a guy that I went to Emporia State with for the one semester I was there.
This may be rocky territory for people. We might get slammed for this.
We might get a little hate mail.
I don't know, but
there was a guy that I knew at Emporia State that I always thought was really interesting, and he was kind of diminutive in stature, and he always dressed like something from like every day of the week he was some different style from some different decade, and it wasn't a particular day that he was going to dress like this, but it's not like he had it on his calendar. But or presumably, I never saw him wearing the same thing twice, really. But I always saw there was like a week where he was doing this kind of greaser style, and there was and then a while later, and then I ran into him a few weeks down the line, and I see him dressed kind of like Buddy Holly, and I went, "That's really interesting." And then later I see him in a suit, and then later this guy is just runs the gamut. He knows what he looks good in.
But it sounds like that's just that guy.
And I just feel like it's fascinating because some people that would be a uniform, but
like
for
I said,
him,
experimentation is cool, is interesting. Yeah,
he tries different things because he knows he can get away with it. So, and you know what's interesting is that most of us could get away with whatever we wanted to anyway.
Sure. Well, and also, don't we live in a culture these days where, and this is a good thing, I think, where so much more is accepted than ever was before.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we have so much of the groupthink that maybe we did at one point of everybody's got to look presentable. And that always means exactly the same thing. You know what I mean?
I feel like what is
more
presentable
things are okay. Yeah,
is defined by the occasion. So if you're at work, you should probably wear something appropriate for your work.
That. Yeah, absolutely, sure. But I mean, I just think in your everyday life, just going out in public, it's a lot harder for me to just judge a person for whatever they're wearing. And it's like I always say with fiction, you can get away with anything, you just got to get away with it. So I'm just super open-minded. I used to know a girl who, no joke, wore cat ears and a tail everywhere.
That's interesting.
And it was hard for me not to think that's weird, but of course I didn't refuse to associate with her just because of that. And she was one of those interesting people I knew, and she was pretty down to earth talking to her. You know what I mean? So like I have a tough time straight up saying, that's weird. You shouldn't do whatever.
Another thing. Here's something. I want to make it explicitly clear that if I see somebody in public that I think that's a little weird that they're like that, that doesn't mean that I'm going to judge them as being incompetent or anything. I'm just going to look at them and go, they're dressed a little counterintuitively to what you would usually assume the occasion demands.
Well, and think about it. A lot of people do that. I'm sure, or at least certain things that people wear to stand out. They want you to think that.
Yeah, and sometimes like these Renfest
they want you to cock your head back and go, wait a minute, that's unusual.
Yeah, like these
Some people
Renfest
crave attention.
A lot of these people work on these costumes, and they make them look really intricate and interesting. And these people were no exception. So by that logic, are they almost showing off skill by standing out in public?
Great point.
So the ears were a little weird.
They're taking pride in what they're doing
because they show off what they can do. Now I know a girl that also makes costumes, and she likes to make things. Like just recently, she made the dress from Pretty in Pink, and she wore that around, and she does interesting stuff, and she's proud of what she does. She's a good seamstress. There's nothing wrong with that. Show off what you can do.
Right.
So I think the big thing is that if you're going to wear them in an everyday situation, if you're going to dress any particular way, you have to be ready for whatever social stigma that brings with it.
Exactly. Yeah. So do whatever you want to, but also just understand that you may be taking some kind of a social risk. Yeah.
If you dress like a hippie,
I think it's best to already be confident enough when you are doing that, and that's why I say it needs to reflect your personality and not go the other way.
Because people will treat you differently based on how you dress.
They're going to. Yeah. And you can't stop that. It doesn't matter if it's fair. You can't change people's minds. Like you can't change the whole of the universe just because you want to be accepted. So you hope that maybe you can change some people's minds. I'm dress however you want to, do whatever you want to do. But I'm just saying that you make a great point that it's best to already be ready for that. It's best to be confident enough that you can take some criticism.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go under the radar, dress like I'm dressed, jeans and a t-shirt, and you walk out into public and nobody looks at you in a second look.
Some people don't care about being out of the radar, and
But I'll tell you what, I went to a friend's wedding not too long ago, and I was dressed as I said earlier. I had slacks on, I had a slim fit button down with a nice tie, and my sleeves rolled up. And you know what? People were holding doors for me, calling me sir. It was interesting.
That's great, yeah.
And even some really,
because you looked like an authority.
Yeah, and you walk around with your chest up, and people go, or like, this is an important guy.
Like you have some kind of stature, yeah.
So if you walk around dressed like a hippie, you can't feel too bad when people think you do pot. It's just drug culture, hippie culture go hand in hand, so you cannot separate connotations from what people tend to associate with these lifestyles.
Yeah, and all political correctness aside, there are reasons that some things become cliches. There's reasons that some things become stereotypes. A lot of stereotypes are unfair, and yet they're going to be in the social consciousness. So people are going to think that. Again, it's not fair, but it's the way it is. So. Oh, you know what? There's something else that I think is kind of interesting. I'm going to more of the geek side, going to more of the costume side. This got heavier than I thought it would.
It got really interesting.
But what an interesting conversation. Well done. Anyway, so Isn't it funny? Because I said that we're blurring the lines a lot between costumes and regular clothes. We're doing that a lot in the geek community these days. Where do you draw the line, Vince, when you say you shouldn't just like wear your Halloween costume out? But then we have like these, like I've got a couple where you've got like the hoodie that looks like a superhero costume, but then has like a hood that's actually a mask, and then you have T-shirts that don't just have the emblem of the superhero, but have his chest and belt and everything.
Oh, like my Captain America shirt?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Like there was a time when when you'd wear that and people would think it was a costume. In fact, I was eating it at a Chick-fil-A the other day because I love pickles on my chicken sandwiches. And I
just like pickles.
This guy that was working there walked up to me and he says, oh hey, a nice costume. And I just looked at him and I said, well, this is actually just my hoodie. He thought it was my Halloween costume. That's amusing. It was my Wolverine jacket. That is not the most conspicuous thing I own, by the way. And
that's a fair way to describe that.
And anyway, he was like, "Is that Wolverine?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is." He said, "Nice costume." I said, That's just what I go out in everyday dress.
You know, sometimes, like, depending on what you're wearing.
We're so much more accepting now with all this, with this geek culture and stuff, to the point where you can wear something that somebody might have used to consider a costume.
A number of years ago, I have on separate occasions, I've put on a suit jacket, a tie, a button-down white shirt, black pants, and a fedora and sunglasses, and you go out and people go, well, there's a guy wearing a suit and sunglasses. But you do that on Halloween and people go, he's one of the Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah.
So you know, I feel like
you can put clothes on that aren't a costume until there's an occasion for it to be a costume.
Yeah, so I think that sometimes if you want to dress like a fictional character or dress like a particular style of something, go for it. You know, because there are certain things that are acceptable year round. Why Blues Brothers are not something that you wouldn't see on a regular basis. I mean, granted, you wouldn't see somebody wearing sunglasses at night normally, but
unless they're singing about it,
unless they have super dilated eyes or something. But
or unless they're in the Matrix.
It's true.
Oh, I liked that joke, by the way. That was very funny. Wasn't exactly a laugh out loud kind of gag, but I thought I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So, but you know, I wouldn't go out dressed like a Ghostbuster on anything other than a costume type of thing.
Or when a hotel calls you up and they need you to get rid of that ghost that's up in the ballroom.
Let me ask you this. As a person who has thrown parties in the past,
I have. It's happened.
Would you throw, or is it normal to throw a costume party at a time of year that's not October? Because I've never seen anyone do it.
I don't think so. I think you could. I think it would be harder to get people to do it.
Because it's less plentiful around those times of year? Yeah,
because costumes take a lot of planning if you're going to make your own, and we live in a cosplay age, and we should talk about the cosplay thing, because we haven't even gone there. And maybe that's another video. Maybe we'll briefly touch on it, but maybe we should do a cosplay video at some point, especially because this turned much more into regular dress that somebody might misconstrue as a costume. But anyway, no, I think, what were we talking about? Throwing a party outside of Halloween, but actually doing a costume. Okay, so most people don't these days, and it's funny too because the Halloween stores are so plentiful now and seem to be doing really well, and yet most people I know that like to wear costumes make their own.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they don't go for the store-bought thing, and so if you say, hey, we're gonna do a party in August, and why don't you come in costume? That's, by the way, a terrible month because it's gonna be hot. Why don't you know it's February, come in costume. A lot of people I know, you'd have to give them a lot of notice because they want to make something brand new for it. Like I know people that make costumes where they're not going to wear whatever they have laying around. They have to make a new costume for every event they wear a costume for. Right. At the same time, isn't a convention a costume for the people that go a costume party outside of Halloween season?
That's fair.
So people do this already for certain occasions, but as far as just me at my house throwing, I would never think to do that. But I have thrown formal dinner parties. I have done parties where everybody's supposed to dress up.
You know, it occurs to me, and I'm sorry that I'm just saying this now, but it occurs to me that I've not
Here's the thing I should have said that would have made this conversation go the way I wanted it to in the first place.
Oh, no, not really. But it occurs to me that I've not seen a person in like, I kind of felt like I was guilty of this, where I would see somebody in costume and then judge them for it. But it occurs to me I've not seen a person in costume that I didn't assume had an event somewhere. So I saw a guy dressed like an Undertaker, you know, like a classic Undertaker, creepy hair, stovepipe hat.
Wouldn't it be amazing if that was what he always wore?
Yeah, and I just assumed he's going to a costume thing, and then I went, just now it went, well, maybe that was a regular dude.
You know, I gotta tell you, where I really come down on this is, like I said, I have a hard time being really judgmental. I'm kind of open because of people I've known that I thought were super eccentric, and I got to know them, and that was the thing I loved about them.
Yeah.
I think
like Josh.
that where I'm, where I'm going to come down on this is people are going to look at you weird if you wear something that wherever you are seems to be really out of the norm, and the way to get away with it is to own it.
Yeah.
That's what's most important. Freaking own it. But also, don't come on super strong to the point where if people don't already know what you're doing or what it is and that sort of thing, that you're, like, mean to them or whatever, you know? Because that comes off as antisocial behavior. That comes off as you know, like, nerdy in the wrong way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what I mean is own it.
Socially inclusive.
Thank you. If that's your personality, if you are wearing your personality on your sleeve, own it.
I'll say this. I mean, like, it's even as simple as making bad choices. Like, I had this big, puffy blue sweater that was ugly as sin. And I got it from my dad. Really, this is supposed to be something that you wear under your clothes for, like, going hunting in the winter or something. And it was cold, and I went, I'll wear this sweater. And I walked around all proud because I felt like I looked like Ben Grimm. And I'm walking around in this sweater.
People thought you looked stupid.
And as it turns out, I look really dumb in that sweater. And there was this girl that sits next to me in class, and she was all about it. She was like, oh, that's really fun, and it looks so soft. She's like, can I touch it? I'm like, yeah, go for it. It was interesting. So
Vince was shag carpeted, man.
Yeah. So people, you know, as he says, you gotta own it. And also, I want to say that if you wear a costume out in public, that's a cool looking costume, something that is very easily recognizable. Like when I dressed as Mario, or specifically Mario Sunshine, people would stop and go, "Dude!" and like give you a high five. And it was sometime in like June that I was wearing this, and people like, I know what that is, and that is awesome. And wearing a costume in public, specifically something recognizable, people will have the same reaction to like t-shirts, like, man, I didn't think anyone liked that but me. Or people will say, man, I just love that so much, I'm gonna have to say something to you, like wearing a funny t-shirt.
I get that a lot because I wear a lot of comic t-shirts and other kinds of shirts, and like a lot of the time I'll be out in public and somebody will come up to me and they'll be like, I love your shirt, and I always forget what I'm wearing. I always forget what I have on. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, that is cool.
Yeah. So I think you can wear a costume. I feel like you should be able to throw a costume event any time of year. I feel like you should be able to wear a costume out in public because the assumption should be that you have an event and people shouldn't just judge you as being strange. Because you can have a costume event any time of year. And I don't feel like having an obscure costume should be something that is judge-worthy, that people should just accept these things. Now, people who wear these costumes need to realize that it's kind of strange outside of particular times of the year.
You're taking a risk.
Yeah, you're taking a risk.
Now,
people are going to look at you funny.
Let me ask you this because I think it's funny. If I were... And I'm not, and I wouldn't do this, but let me preface this with, this isn't me. I wouldn't do this, but if I were to wear a Starfleet uniform all the time, if like 3 months went by and you never saw me out of uniform, what would you think of me?
I would think that...
To me personally, you and I being friends for as long as we have and that kind of thing, like put this completely in the context of our friendship. What would you think of me?
Since I knew you?
Yes.
Like, since I knew you started this, or I knew you were like this when I first met you?
Starting today, I just start wearing my Starfleet uniform, and 3 months go by and I'm always wearing it. What would you think?
I think I would think that you have a lot of them.
I don't.
And you do have a washer and dryer. You could wash them if you just had a few. You could cycle them. And I would think that you were planning on me coming over and seeing you in this shirt. I'm being facetious, but really...
You get my question, though.
Yeah, if I saw a person wearing a Star Trek uniform every day, I would think, there is a person who's borrowing trouble. That's what I would think, is if I saw a guy going to school every day or going to work every day...
is it obsessive behavior?
Yeah, that's
just
what
by
I would
and
say
large,
is.
is it immediately obsessive behavior?
Like, if you wore a costume shirt, like a Star Trek shirt a couple days a week, if you wore a costume shirt every day of the week that made you look like something, I mean, let's be realistic. Star Trek is kind of the least invasive one that you could have.
It's one of them, yeah,
so,
sure.
Because it's just a shirt,
yeah,
and you don't even need to wear the badge. You can just wear the shirt, and it's just a shirt.
Yeah.
So you can dress like that, and that's not a problem. Actually, no matter what, it's not a problem. Wear what you want. I don't care. But you can dress like that.
Vince gives his stamp of approval. He doesn't care.
Yeah. I don't care. I'm not. This doesn't keep me up at night when I see people like that. And like, do what you want. I'm still gonna give you a high five and go, rock on, bub. But seriously, that's probably what I'll say to you because I'm corny like that.
But you did earlier say, it's weird to wear a Starfleet uniform to the grocery store.
Yeah, and I say it's weird because it's not normal. And people, I think the people who wear the costumes have to realize that it's not something that people see every day, and especially ignorant people that don't know much about what that thing you like is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying stupid people because that's different than ignorant. You can't be angry at somebody who is unknowing.
I think it's important to remember that people live in different worlds.
Yeah, like isolation. It is what it is. If you live a particular lifestyle, you tend to see only one particular thing. And a lot of people will willfully close themselves off from other things. Like, I like country because that's where I'm from. Well, that's not fair. There's other cool things you could listen to. I mean, there's rockabilly, and that will launch you into rock, and then that would launch you into other things. I'm like, come on. Give something else a shot. Now, I've derailed, but where am I going?
I don't know. You going anywhere?
I'm going somewhere. I guess my point is, do what you want, but just be aware that other people aren't necessarily going to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so I was going to talk a little bit about cosplay, but I think what I want to do instead is make this my rant. So I'm going to make my rant connected to this topic, and I'm going to start us off.
Fair enough.
I feel like there is a difference between putting on a costume and cosplaying.
What's the difference?
The difference is people who cosplay tend to put on a costume, go to a convention, and embody that character. Pretend to be that person. I feel like that's what cosplay is or ought to be. It seems strange to me that simply wearing a costume makes it cosplaying, because the word costume has existed for centuries, but the word cosplay hasn't. So there needs to be a difference between these two words. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair.
Before that, and I'm not making up a definition, I don't think. I feel like there was a time when that word first came into usage that I was hearing it a lot, where I could tell the difference, where a person might put on a costume, but the people that worked really hard on making them, or even if somebody else made it for them, they, the reason they went to the convention was to wear that costume. That even if they're not straight up pretending to be the character, totally embodying it, it's all about the costume. It's all about, look at me, I have this great costume. And I just feel like that's a little bit different than just simply wearing a costume. I think there should be some kind of a distinction, maybe. There's not these days. These days, that word has become so popular that you can just say cosplay. You can, I don't think...
Look, they have cat ears and a tail. They're cosplaying.
Again, this is a rant. I might not even be making any sense at all when I say this, but I don't think putting on a Halloween costume, a store-bought Halloween costume, is the same thing as cosplaying.
That's, what I've always kind of thought cosplaying was you've made a costume. I thought cosplaying was that you worked hard, or at least you put together things that created a costume, and you didn't just get a manufactured costume.
But then why is the word play in the word? I'm dissecting the word, I guess. Yeah. And I always felt like when I first started hearing that word, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That means they're wearing a costume, but they're playing the character. And a lot of the people that I've seen that make their own costumes or have clearly, really elaborate homemade costumes are doing that. Even if they're not doing it the entire time, where they can jump into character and they start to some degree pretending to be that character. And I have heard, and I don't know if this is true. Who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody the other day where they said, sorry, I'm talking to myself. I was talking to somebody the other. It's funny when you have you
hang out. I'm going to talk to myself for a minute.
It's funny when you have a lot of people watching you on camera. And you go who was I talking to? And like everybody in the comments is like, oh, you were talking to Bob Dole. Anyway, so
I'm Bob Dole, and I don't like geeky things because I'm Bob Dole. I don't know. I just assumed.
Why does he have to wear a Bob Dole costume all the time? Why?
Yeah, Bill Clinton has a great Bob Dole costume, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
But he needs to quit wearing it to the grocery store. If you're always obsessed with the one thing. So anyway, somebody was telling me the other day that cosplay used to just be anime. That meant that you were you made an anime costume and you were playing that character at a convention. That's what that meant. That's not it anymore. Cosplaying is such a huge phenomenon. It's an industry almost now. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's really big,
and I like it. I think it's cool. I got no problem with it. I'm starting to enter it a bit myself, in fact, because I have a friend who is starting up her own. I kind of cosplay business. She's making. By the way, this is the girl who made the hat. This is Brandon's sister. This is the girl who made the hat for Spawn-Year, the giant Captain Cagliostro hat that always goes off camera. Anyway, she's kind of starting up her own cosplay business, and she's asking me to give her costume ideas. So she's going to make me costumes, and then I'm supposed to go to conventions and kind of advertise her business for her a little bit, which is really neat. That I get to do this. It's going to be fun. And I'll probably show some of that stuff off on the channel some too here and there. Quick plug for that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I guess I'm just bringing that up because it's it's gotten so big that I'm not even making costumes and I'm becoming a part of this whole thing. Like it's a web that if you're into geekdom, it tends to suck you in. You know.
Yeah, I would agree largely that there should be a difference between costume and cosplay. But at this point in the game, all costuming at any convention is called cosplay.
It is, and I just don't know why that changed so much. Because the word costume is still a verb.
Yeah.
So is it one of those words that people just started saying because it made them sound like they knew something in the geek community? You know what I mean? Like sometimes that kind of thing happens where it gets really big because everybody's like, if I use the word cosplay instead of costuming, I sound like I'm part of these people. I'm in this elite group because I'm using the terminology that they use.
We are the cosplayers.
Yeah, so I don't know.
They all wear ties.
So I guess my rant is more of a question. Like, what does that word mean? Does it mean anything anymore? Is it the same thing? Is that synonymous with costuming? It shouldn't be. They both start with the same. I mean, it's a word that came out of that word. They shouldn't mean the same thing.
There's cos in it.
Yeah, came out of anyway. But that's my rant.
Fair.
Because that's the thing I wanted to talk about with cosplaying, and then I thought, well, that makes a good rant. I'll just do that. Anyway, what's your rant today, Vince?
Okay, my rant is I get kind of annoyed with people who don't understand or can't differentiate between flavor and texture. I know this has nothing to do with today's topic.
Vince, real quick, I'm sorry, I have a question for you.
This flavor of this wool sweater is really weird.
I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
What is the difference between flavor?
Do you not know?
No, I do.
Oh, okay. I was like, am I ranting about Cap?
No, I just thought it was funny to say that. Sorry, go right ahead.
Alrighty, so here's the difference. What something feels like in your mouth is the texture. And now, what something tastes like is the way your tongue perceives the flavor of the object in your mouth.
Is using the two different parts of your tongue, right? The texture is the skin of your tongue telling you something, and the flavor is the taste buds of your tongue telling you something.
Yeah, you have taste receptors, i.e. the taste buds on your tongue.
Is this not common sense?
Apparently not. Because, I have a friend that went to have Indian food with us, and, not everyone's bag. Fair enough.
Not mine.
But, I have a friend that went with us, and at some point I said to him, "It's all right, bud. You don't have to go with us to get Indian food again." And he's like, "Oh, thank God." And he said, "Man, when I was there, I just wondered how bland you like your food." And I just kind of looked at him for a minute, and then I said, "Bud, Indian food's not bland. It's thin. There are a lot of things that are either runny or things that are in runny sauces that is not something," and granted, of course, this is just largely the stuff that this place served, and there are things, ways of preparing meat that don't have sauce on them, and this place also serves those. So
but Indian food is largely really flavorful.
Yeah, it's highly spiced. It's one of the most spiced foods available.
Yeah.
And
it gets a lot farther than a lot of Mexican food, I think.
Yeah, good or not, that's not the question here. The question here, that's not the issue. The
it's
issue
why don't you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you don't like the way it feels in your mouth, that's fine. There are people that don't like cold cuts because they're a little slimy. Well, I would argue it depends on the cold cuts you get. But there are a lot of people that don't like... There's people that don't like pudding because it's gushy. There's people who don't like bananas because they're gushy. And Americans seem to be very much so, and this is, of course, not true across the board, but it seems to be generally true. They like things that are solid. They like things that have weight to them. And they also like things that are fried. But that's neither here nor there.
We like fried solid food here in America. That's what we eat.
It's very true. So there are people that there are a lot of Americans that say I don't eat rabbit food, and by rabbit food they generally mean vegetables. So all they eat is like meat and cheese and crap.
See, I misunderstood you. I thought you said rabid food, and I was like, well, I wouldn't eat rabid food either. I wouldn't eat food that's trying to eat me.
You know, I tried to have a hamburger. I tried to have the hamburger the other day that said this. My hamburger snarled at me.
So, was it? I will say, I was going to ask if it was still a cow, but even that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I've never seen a cow do that.
Yeah, it was a saber-tooth burger.
It was a saber-tooth burger.
It was a rabid saber-tooth burger. But, so people have a difficult time differentiating between texture and taste, and that drives me nuts. So all I'm saying is there's, for those of you who didn't know, like, yeah! What he said. Why is he ranting? Who cares? But it's something that annoys me.
It's an obligation. It's part of the show.
That's true. But it really does annoy me. I'm like, because you're not expressing yourself particularly well when you don't understand the difference between these two things. And they are significantly different. A hot dog tastes the same, hot or cold. Why? It's previously cooked. The only difference is now they've refrigerated it, so that they can ship it somewhere.
Yeah. I know people who there's tons of food that they don't eat, not because it doesn't taste good, but because they don't like what it feels like in their mouth. Yeah.
Just fine. And there's also a psychological component to it. There are people that are like, well, I can't eat that because that reminds me of said disgusting excrement.
I have that. Well, not just that. I wasn't going to say excrement, but sorry, I should have let you finish that sentence before I said I have that. No, I
have lots of disgusting excrement.
No, you said psychological. Anyway, no, I thought you were gonna say that it having a psychological component, that it's that certain food like reminds you of certain memories, and it makes it tough for you to enjoy it. I have that with a few things, and of course, sense of smell is one of the strongest senses, and one of the senses that most reminds you of certain things. And obviously, how you smell food has a lot to do with how you experience eating. And so
it's also true that how you smell food alters how you taste it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If you can't smell,
I was going to say that
you can't
too.
Taste certain things.
Yeah, and so immediately just the smell of something or that whole process might remind you of a memory that is good or bad, that you might not come up with in any other way, in exactly the same way that smelling maybe somebody's perfume that reminds you of an ex-girlfriend or something might, that sort of thing.
Indeed. Too true. Oh. Also, there's kind of a psychological component to it for people who say things, just on top of what you're saying, that...
I was like, are we going to repeat this point?
Yeah,
also, no.
The way you expect something to be will significantly alter how you enjoy it.
Oh, that's true. Well, we talk about that constantly with seeing films and things, yeah?
Like, the other day...
Perception is everything. Yeah.
I bring up the hot dog earlier because the other day I ate a cold hot dog and a stick of cheese because I just went, and had them both at the same time. Because food is fuel, and that's what it was for me. I need sustenance. So I'm eating this cold hot dog, and this lady looks at me and goes, "Are you eating that hot dog cold?" Oh. And I said, it's cooked meat. It's the same thing as eating lunch meat. And then she pulls out cold cuts and eats that. And I said, that's the exact same thing. And she said, well... usually you eat hot dogs hot. I said, yeah, you do. Most people either microwave them
so you might not like the
taste
taste of it, but the way she reacted was implying that she thought it was gross or something?
Yeah, like I was eating uncooked meat.
You weren't, yeah.
Which, by the by, is a stigma that is very much so American.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Because, by God, I enjoy sushi. I like me some
I do
sushi.
too. By the way, there's a sushi place that opened over here recently that I haven't been to yet that I want to take it to.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, we've been talking for a good long time. This is one of our longer episodes recently.
Surprisingly so.
Yeah, this was one of those things where I was like, I don't know if we have anything to say, and then it turned into this entirely different topic.
Yeah. So enjoy your half Halloween, Geeks Not Nerds.
I thought you meant like enjoy the half the half of Halloween that we made you spend watching this video. Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching Geeks Not Nerds. We'd love to hear your ideas and feelings about this particular topic. When is it appropriate to go out and wear costumes, and when do you distinguish a costume, not a costume? And then the thing we went into about dressing abnormally. How do you feel about all of that? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. I'm sure there's going to be lots of opinions. And also, if there's something you'd like us to talk about in a future video, leave that in the comments as well. And thanks as always for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local costume store.
We'll see you later.